But anyways, I'm Crystal Hinkle. I'm part of the team here at Synchro, and I will let the other ladies of Synchro introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tatiana. I'm also with the Synchro sales team.
Hi everyone, I'm Brandy and I am the third member of the Synchro sales team.
Well, thank you so much. And again, I appreciate you all being here today. We have a very special guest, Ross Decker, with us today. So we appreciate him being here. We're going to get to ask him a lot of questions. We've got some prepared questions, but we want to hear from the group as well. So we have a Q&A that we have. I've got it open on another screen. So if you see my face look in a different direction, that's what I'm doing. So feel free to kind of start populating any questions that you have today. And we will get rolling. I'd like to introduce Ross if he wants to give us a little bit of a background and let us know who you are. Oh, Ross, hold on. You're muted, Ross. There you go.
I am. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for having me today here, guys. So I am the operating officer for Sagaster Associates Group. We're a dental-specific IT company based out of Columbus, Indiana, a little bit south of Indianapolis. The company's been in business for about 20 years. I started here 6 years ago and came from DoD. I was a Marine Corps Data Systems Chief before joining the MSP space. MSP really spoke to me and I kind of fell into it gracefully because the Department of Defense runs everything managed. So it was kind of a match made in heaven. I didn't plan on ending up in dental. That's our specific vertical, but everything that we do as far as taking care of clients from a consultant type of perspective really worked well, spoke to my experience. So that's kind of how I ended up in this realm, learned a lot over the last 6 years of as far as what the commercial offerings are. A lot of that is quite a bit different than what the DoD spends money on. But that's me and us in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to kind of just dive right into some questions because I know a lot of folks here want to hear about, how you implemented Synchro, how you're saving money using Synchro and actually increasing your revenue at the same time. So we're just
Sure.
going to kind of dive into some questions. And again, we've got a list of questions, but we want to hear from everyone in this room too. So if there's questions that come up as Ross is answering questions, we will try to get through all of those as well. So initially, I'm curious if you don't mind telling the story is, how did you even come across Synchro? What attracted you to Synchro and what ultimately was like, yes, this is what we've got to do this?
Okay, so up until I guess a little over a year ago, we had our anniversary with Synchro just a bit ago, maybe a month or so. We were in Autotask and what was CentraStage prior to that, and then AEM branded afterwards. And we'd been with them for about 3 years. We had Kaseya ConnectWise before that. We've kind of bounced around different fittings for different reasons, and probably like most of the people here, traded products because a feature that you loved went away or something that you really needed was offered somewhere else. So we attend the Robin Robbins conferences. That's where we met you all, and walked by the booth. And it's a funny story. I tell it a lot, but I walked by the booth and I just asked, the standard conference question: who are you guys and what do you do? I've never seen you before. And I heard PSA and RMM, and I kind of thought, well, we are so deep into Autotask. I've put so much time and effort and work into getting, the scripting worked out, getting the RMM especially kind of tuned into what we need, and spent tons of time on the phone with our reps and with them. And so my initial reaction was, okay, cool. I mean, we'll talk, but there's just no way. I sat there, and at the time, Ian and Troy, I think, were there. I don't know if Garrett was there or not, but they kind of went through the soft pitch, right? And they're both hyper technical, so it spoke to me a lot because I'm in operations. And when we got to the end of the pitch, very non-committal, right? And this is the phrase that everyone pokes fun at me about. I said, well, I'm not interested, right? So they kind of laughed at that, and I walked away, and I went to our CEO and I said, hey, I know this sounds nuts, but there's a new PSA here, integrated RMM, and I know that there's no way you're having the same, he's looking at me the same way I looked at at Troy and Ian when I heard PSA and RMM. He said, no way. We walked back over. He got the soft pitch. And he kind of had the same reaction I did, although he was definitely a bit more hesitant, right? There's no way we're changing that many assets over. We've got 2,700 assets under management on any given day, heavily invested in Autotask with how long we've been with them. And I just kind of kept hammering at it. And I said, I think this is really something that we need to look into. We demoed it, I think, the next week. And I think that from our perspective, at the time, and we talked about this a little bit, Crystal, last time we were at the conference, we were using Autotask and AEM, which were two separate portals, right? Which I was never a huge fan of that, right? You got to log in, and they finally fixed the single sign-on where you could switch between the two, but it's a whole nother site. We're using Connect Booster for payments and, incoming ACHs and credit cards, and that's supposed to all connect over to Autotask. So there's all this external. We had, I think it was 17 business applications we were running at the start of this whole thing. So we went and we sat down at a table. I got the pricing back from you guys, and we kind of did a rough calculation. I said, if we do this, and not a knock on how well the transition went at all, but just to be transparent about where we were, I said, if we do this, we don't have to sell anything next year, and we're $80,000 better than where we are going to end this year, just in raw cost. Okay. And, of course that interested my CEO. Is, well, okay, let's take a look at it. So, we're scratching things off, apps we're not going to use anymore because Syncro's got the whole single pane of glass feel to it. The RMM is built in, it's totally integrated. So we arrived at this place where he looked at me and said, okay, it's your team, they're your people. If you want to do it, do it. I said, okay, cool. I came back and I think we scheduled a real trial or whatever, got on board. And that's kind of how we arrived at, we're going to do this. The numbers alone for us, it's hard to walk away from that much saving. Even if it was just the Autotask savings, and I'll be totally transparent, our Autotask savings year one was $48,000. Wow. So.
Yeah, that's attractive. That's a good amount of money to save.
It's not much that I won't try at least once for 50 grand. So.
Right. Absolutely. So with that said, it was a process for sure, but I think that a lot of the people that we all talk to on a day-to-day basis, it just feels it's like way too overwhelming to even think about it. And I know when you went to your CEO, it was kind of one of those, it was immediate shutdown,
Mm-hmm.
No, we're not doing this. Do you have any advice for people that just kind of live in that area where they're like, yeah, this looks great, but I don't think we can actually do it? Do you have any advice for people that are kind of in that limbo stage?
Well, I think it just depends on, I think it depends on how you get up every day. If you get up every day like I do, and probably most of you do, and everyone's in a variation of this, right? But if you get up every day and you truly care about growing your business and you truly care about providing high quality service to your clients, right? You probably start your day with some type of commitment or mantra or something, or at one point you did. At this point, it's the end of the year and I don't think about anything. I just come to the office and I try to get to Friday, right? But that was your motivation when you stepped out, when you started the business, right? I want to grow the business. I want the business to be successful. And I want to take really good care of the people who trust me with their business. So if that's really how you approach, the growth and the structure and the decisions you make on a daily basis, then when you find something that's good, what you really have to do is just do it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, full transparency, I'll tell you how we did it. Cause I went to my team lead and I said, hey man, new PSA, new RMM. And he looked at me kind of like the CEO did. He's like, oh, thanks, man. Cause it's November or October, it was mid-October when we did this, right? We just had our 1-year anniversary. So we were just as busy last year as we have been this year. And he looked at me like, come on, dude, can we do this in January or something? This is going to suck right now. And I said, no, we can't, because I emailed and canceled Autotask yesterday. We've only got till the end of the month to get all of our RMMs pulled, because I didn't want to pay Autotask for another month, right? That was I don't want to pay Autotask for November or December or what it was. So we basically had, I don't know, 11 days to transition everything. Because I mean, if you're not, that's the way, and that may be a little bit of the Marine Corps, kind of bleeding over into this life or whatever. But if you're going to do anything successfully, if you're in business, you've probably read 1,000 self-help books or whatever, but all of them say that if you're truly successful, most people make decisions fast and change their mind very slow. I make decisions fast. If we're going to do something, like, why am I going to play with Syncro for 60 to 90 days and I don't know if it's going to work? I'm going to jump in with both feet, and if it's a mistake, I'll live with it. I'll gut it out and we'll go do something else. But if I'm going to do something, I'm not going to sit around for 90 or 120 days trying to decide if it's a good thing to do. That's just not the way to do business. I mean, if you find a flaw, to relate it to everyday business, if you find a flaw in an update, are you going to sit around and try to figure out how to, a Windows update on Tuesday or something? You're going to sit around and try to figure out how we're going to do this? Or you're just going to pull it out of the RMM and pray to God that it doesn't mess everything up? We're going to pull it as fast as you can. That makes sense from a technical perspective. I treat the business the same way. If this is going to be better, we just do it. And I'll figure out the details and all the fallout afterwards, because if it's better, it needs to be what we're doing already.
Absolutely. So, okay, so now let's switch gears a little bit and go dive back into more of the technical aspect of how did you actually do it? And I know that there's a lot of things that, we did on our side too. We built an importer for Autotask. We helped build, the foundation of bringing over historical data, but like that actual nitty-gritty stuff, the technical stuff that I wouldn't know. Like, how did you actually do it?
Well, so there was, when we signed up in the demo, part of that, or in the trial, part of that process was, how do we get this Autotask data over? And it's, financial data, ticket information, client information, and then I had to transition all of my endpoints via the RMM. So the two biggest hurdles were the historical ticket information and the RMM transition, right? And your all's Autotask importer, when we first landed, was it was pretty cut and dry, right? And I went back and forth with the development team, emails and tickets and questions and all this, getting that fine-tuned, because we had 20 years of ticket history to bring over, and it was a huge chunk of data to bite off. But what I kept explaining throughout the process was, especially because we're in the dental medical space, I have to have history to go back to. I can't have someone come to me and say, what happened with this, 4 or 5 years ago, this employee is no longer here. So we had to have it. So we tweaked the importer. And the cool thing that helped a lot with that was you guys kept doing test pulls for us. So we would pull on Monday morning, grab everything, and then I would take my team lead and maybe another tech, and we would just spend a couple hours in Syncro trying to figure out, okay, hey, we're missing this. These notes didn't come through. And I'll give you a good example. We got the history all worked out, where I had all my historical data, and then I noticed all of those notes on the tickets are coming through as default or import user or something, right? And I said, no. I have to know the employee who made these modifications. Once again, I'm in the medical and dental space. Liability-wise, I have to keep everything very, very concise. So we came back and you guys made a small modification to the importer so that then I could see what employee created the ticket, modified the ticket, made the note, whatever, and then we pulled everything again. So it was all sorts of little nuanced things like that from your all's perspective, and like you said, you may not realize that we need, or you may not think about that we need. You're building a product and trying to include everything that someone may need. But it's just like, I don't remember who said it. We just heard it last week, but no plan, right? No plan makes it past the first customer. So you're always gonna have to modify something. And it was awesome that we were able to heavily modify. And I think that, when we got all the way through it, you guys said, wow, the auto task importer is awesome now, because because we asked for so much. And on the RMM side, I think that your RMM importer is really solid now, and I think you've had to use it, dozens of times since then. We were able to basically do it's like a UUID extraction to match all of our Autotask clients up to what was now our new PSA clients or contacts in Syncro, and then we just PowerShelled it. I ran the PowerShell on a single push on AEM and brought over 2,700 assets in about 2 hours. And then we went live on Monday morning. I mean, that's how it really worked in the end. So
that's awesome. I like hearing that. All right, so let's go ahead. I think Brandy is up next with some questions.
So I know, Ross, earlier you had mentioned, people switch RMMs and PSA tools based on features oftentimes. They really want to go with something because it has a certain feature, or they're holding back from a platform because it's missing a certain feature. So we're going to talk about the features that you have lost and how you filled that gap. But first, I want to just ask, what features did you gain with Syncro?
So right off the bat, like I said earlier, the single pane of glass feel was a big plus for me. Okay. We got rid of a lot of apps. Those were all external as well. But one place to have my employees work from, every day is a big plus. Not having to switch and go to another platform to look at our RMM agents or any of the reporting tied to that was a big plus. Especially because in our particular vertical, we don't have a lot of users, right? It's in dental and medical, kind of across the board. You're really only dealing with 2 or 3 users, because you've got the doctor, maybe his assistant, or some front desk staff. Everyone else is using the computers kind of interchangeably all day. So really, for us, the individual assets are a lot more important, and that data is a lot more important kind of on an ongoing basis. So to be able to switch seamlessly, interchangeably between a ticket and RMM and ticket and RMM, and pull that information and kind of reference it as we work through issues with customers, that was a big plus. Because even just the 10, 12, 15-second delay in Autotask that I had from being in a ticket, clicking on an asset, letting CentraStage or AEM pull up, even if you already had it preloaded in another tab or whatever, you take 12 seconds and you multiply it, several hundred times a week, you're wasting a lot of time doing stuff like that. So having, and honestly, just from a UI perspective, the tabular set, I just kind of fell in love with that, because everything's tabs now, right? I use Chrome all day long and hate it or love it, whatever. But I like being able to see where I'm going and easily just switch back and forth and kind of work like that all day. And the fact that Syncro is designed like that from the ground up was pretty awesome. And that's a customizable feature. So, and I'll tell you that your all's standard set, we just took and chopped it up and kind of moved things around and put everything that we use left to right on a daily basis in kind of 1 to 10 fashion. And that was cool, because we can move, and it's kind of intelligent. We can move from tickets into RMM, into finances, and it kind of flows really well. So as you go through your day, all of that information is really available at your fingertips. The financial abilities of taking payments directly, of invoicing directly, of estimating directly, and I don't want to jump outside of the question you asked me, favorite, whatever, but if I'm getting ahead of myself, just tell me. But the estimate, we worked in first quarter of this year. We worked really heavily with you guys in tweaking the estimates and invoicing and all of that. And I can tell you unequivocally that inside sales this year has become insanely simplistic. Whereas, before we were using QuoteWorks, I think. We're using several different products to try to get our outside sales and inside sales all tied in, and then you bring it back to the PSA. And now we worked with you guys a little bit on some special ticket. I had some special requests that I sent in, and basically I, I, I can click on a client now, work up an estimate, send it to the customer in 5 minutes, and they respond, sign it, and we move on. And the Windows 10, the volume of Windows 10 that we've had to do this year, that was huge. And that just goes right back to the single pane thing. I didn't have to use another product to do it, which was massive for us. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And two, I know you mentioned the tabs. A lot of people don't know those are customizable. So if there's certain features you're not using or you're utilizing more often, you can change those in the admin section and just reorder those. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So those are the features you gained and that are your favorite parts. Now let's talk about the features that you lost and how did you fill that gap?
And this is easy. The only thing really that we lost moving over is Autotask has a queue system, and it's more just kind of emotional for my techs and my team, and even me. I'll admit, when we first left the queue system, it was like, oh, so scary, I can't see everything. But we run everything by statuses now. So it's kind of, it was like a thing for 30 days where people were like, oh, I don't know how this is going to be. And I mean, we went through some growing pains with it, trying to figure out how to adjust our workflows and kind of adjust our automations and some of the inbound ticket rules or paths or whatever. But honestly, I think that now where we ended up is probably better anyway, because now you're looking at tickets by status in a single like a single screen view. So and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like if you've read business efficiency books or whatever, a queue system is almost counterproductive in the long run, because you're looking at what you're supposed to be working on, but you spend your whole day with this left-hand view of all the other stuff that you have to do, right? So you've got, on-site queue and emergency queue and all this stuff. So really what I found is all my team members, and myself included, you're focused here and you spend all day going, like, oh, why did that queue just change? So you end up wasting a lot of time. So I think what we've found is over the last 12 months, our efficiency's ticked up. And I'm not going to call it 20% or something, but we're pretty granular about tracking time. And I think the efficiency has ticked up, I don't know, 3 to 4%. And I think some of that ties back to you're only working on what you're working on because it's what you're seeing right now. And I can tell you that, we run everything through what's called a client portal. That's it's kind of our dumping ground. Anything that's inbound, anything that's new today lands in one spot. And then as the techs pick it up, as the team leads pick it up, they divvy it out. They move it into different issue types or queues. As I started this meeting, we had one issue sitting in new tickets for today, which is pretty wild. And I think it ties back to the fact that now you're not distracted by all of this all day. You're working on what you're working on, and that's it. So I think it was organic and surprising and not what we expected and something I was scared about, but it ended up better. I mean, I've still got the feature request out there, but I'm not really hammering on it because, like I said, I don't get beat up about it anymore. And if that's not telling, nothing. I mean, my employees, they're always asking for little things, an RMM tweak or this, that, or the other. I haven't heard what are we doing with that in 8 months. So. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. So the next question, I know we have a lot of one-man and one-woman shops in the room, but we've also got some larger MSPs that have more than one technician. And oftentimes you could be worried about how you're going to train your technicians and how are we going to get this done? Maybe you understand it, but you're, having a hard time. You're worried about if your technician is going to be able to get the hang of it. So was it difficult to train your technicians, and how did you do it? Okay. One, no, it wasn't difficult, and I don't want to oversell it, but because it is single pane, it's pretty intuitive. We've all used apps over the years that, oh my God, where is this? I mean, we had Kaseya, right? And Kaseya's it's super powerful, but you can't find anything. It's so deep. It's like it's like walking into freshman year and someone drops, the Mandarin, language manual, and it's like, oh, welcome to Mandarin. Like, okay, this is going to be awful, right? Because it's super hard to learn. It's so deep. It's so complex. It's so nuanced. And you just don't. We didn't deal with that with you guys, and I knew that. Going into it, because once I demoed it and trialed it, and I've been in the MSP space for, I don't know, 12, 13 years now, if you include the DoD time. I've been using this type of technology. The DoD, before SolarWinds was using SolarWinds. So yeah, if you're in the space, you've kind of got a feel for how that software is supposed to look, because Syncro is tabular, because there's a link to where you need to be on most pages, because it's intuitive. Like if I'm on a ticket, maybe I want to see the asset. Oh, cool, look, asset, Oh, cool, look, customer. Oh, once you're on customer, there's billing, there's invoicing, there's past, there's your last 10 ticket. It's kind of built intelligently. It's not built it wasn't, designed solely as a PSA, and then they threw in an RMM, and it feels like that. You can tell with some of the older, larger softwares that they designed this piece first, and it's really good at being a CRM, but everything else they've added, inventory module, RMM module, sales module, it was added as a module. So the UI feels kind of inorganic. It kind of feels like it was added later. With Syncro, you don't get that, because you all designed it from the ground up. And I know, and I didn't know at the time, but I know your other business, being brick and mortar and having a lot of experience in that software design space, when you got into the MSP world, you knew what you were shooting for, and it's clear. It comes through in the UI design. And I think that's why it was easy to train, because we spent, what, Crystal, a week? I mean, we were already talking at that point. I mean, I didn't just rip the Band-Aid off and shove it down everyone's throats on Monday morning. I spent a week or two during the pre-trial, before I canceled Autotask. I brought my team lead in. I brought my lead techs in. I said, check this out. I want you guys to get familiar with the design, with the flow. And then we made a couple videos. I made a couple screen capture videos, like, hey, this is how you make a ticket. This is how you transfer to somebody else. This is how you change a status, just the basics, And then we had a team meeting on Friday before the Monday. And I said, look, guys, watch the videos, okay? Myself, I've spent a little more time in the product. My team lead and your lead techs have spent a little more time in the product. What we're going to do is Monday morning's going to hit, and you guys are going to figure it out. And if you have specific questions, I'll be here. I specifically didn't schedule myself to be on site or on the road or anything. Your team lead will be here, and your tech leads will be here, and they can help you with those. Oh, you know what? How do I tie this RMM asset that wasn't initially connected to this ticket to the ticket now? How do I go back and do that? Okay, well, I'll show you that real quick. And if I don't know, I'll send a quick ticket into, there's a little help button on Syncro, boom, throw it in there and ask somebody real quick. So it feels like there's no way that, I'm gonna put my text through this. But what I told them was, in the long run, if this product serves us better, if it makes your job better, and this is kind of a recurring theme with me. I've always promised my employees and the company as a whole, every time we get together, my job is to come in here every single day and make your job easier to do, because if your job is easy to do, then our clients get better and better and better service from us. So if I believe in this product and this is what we're going to do, then trust me and utilize this product and leverage this product to the best of your ability, and all of the gains will make your day better, your life easier, and by default, our customers' experience better, which is what we're here to do.
Awesome. I love that. Okay. So we're going to take a quick, we're going to divert just a second here. We've got a few questions in the queue. The first couple, I think I'm just going to share my screen and kind of speak to. If there's anything you want to add in, Ross or Brandy or Tatiana, that's awesome. And then there is a specific question for you, Ross. So the first one, Catherine wants to know about SNMP. And I'll speak to that a little bit. We don't organically have SNMP built into Syncro at this time. What we do have, and this is not, I'm not saying this is the equivalent or anything like that, just wanting to show you some functionality here. if you're in an actual asset, you do have the ability to set up like a ping check or an HTTP check. And if you just go to an asset, you can do that here just straight from the actual individual machine. So you can do a system check. So if you want to ping something, if you want to ping a router, if you want to check, make sure a site's up, you have that functionality within Syncro. And so I would say SNMP is probably our largest feature request right now. So that's, as far as Syncro goes, if
I'm on the
everyone
list.
wants, and Ross is on the list, and Ross is on the list. So maybe, are you running a third-party tool, Ross, or what are you doing?
We've avoided it because, and I've demoed a few, and I'm demoing another one. There's one that we saw at the last conference, and I'm going to demo and check it out. But I think that what we've decided, even with as many assets as I have under management, the tiny bit of information that we're going to glean from something like that does not necessitate me buying another product. That's where I'm at. So the feature request is in. When it comes, cool. It'll make my hyper techie team lead guys happy. But right now, I'm not missing a whole bunch of core functionality that really scares me. So that's kind of where we're at. And I mean, everyone's different. Your vertical's different, whatever. But that's just where we landed. I'm not going to go spend money on something else for one specific function.
Right. And kind of in addition to that, what Catherine was saying is she uses that right now to monitor RAID health on servers. And what I will say is that our scripting engine is incredible. And I think we actually even have a RAID monitoring script in our community script library. So it is achievable within Syncro using our scripting engine. So if that's the functionality that you need from SNMP, I think you could probably achieve that without a third-party tool. The other question that I'm seeing here is there a way to scan for a running process in Task Manager across all machines? I had a lingering process from prior RMM that I noticed is still running on some workstations that did not uninstall automatically. So Frank, we've got actually like a brand new, really awesome feature. There's a few things that I'll kind of speak to here that, I mean, it might make more sense just based upon what, I guess, method you would look to do. But when you're looking at a policy, if I go to policy modules and I go to this process and service monitoring, you can actually monitor for a process. So what you can do is if you go to like a process monitor, you can actually just check to see if it's running. And if it is running, you could either create an alert or set up an automation to kill that process. Now, you could also, I guess, if that alert came in, you could have an automation run that actually runs a script to uninstall. So I think you could achieve that using our process monitoring. I think that's probably the best way to go, because then it'd be dynamic. So if you added more computers to, to what you're monitoring, you could continue to monitor that without having to add that. The other thing that I will show too is you do have the ability to create like a saved asset search too, and you can search for applications on machines. So just kind of highlighting this too, if you wanted to see like what machines across my entire environment have this one thing installed on it, because then once you have that saved search, you can select all of those machines, run a script en masse, and you're good to go. So I think there's two different ways you could maybe handle that. If anyone else has any other suggestions, I think I'm answering that properly.
Well, I can tell you that we use that in reverse. So we have a process monitor that checks for our AV engine, and if it doesn't detect the AV engine, we have a PowerShell that installs the AV. So like you said, it's intelligent. If we add 15 assets because we just onboarded a customer, we really just drop the RMM. The RMM does everything else. We've built all that out, with PowerShell or whatnot. But that's how it works. We built the alert to check for, process A, whatever, and then if it doesn't find it, it installs and so on and so forth. It runs every, 15 minutes or something like that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. this is a specific question for you, Ross. How many policies do you have in Syncro? How do you name and manage policies for so many endpoints without a hierarchy?
So,
yeah, go ahead.
well, so, and this is one where my vertical is kind of unique. And so I hope my answer isn't totally unhelpful, but all of my clients are in the same business. So I don't break them down by site or anything like that, like maybe some of you all have to. We usually stick to breaking policies down by CRM type or practice management type, as we call it. So if an office, for instance, to speak to something that maybe people have a little more, familiarity with, if you have a bunch of accounting offices and a whole bunch of them use QuickBooks, or a whole bunch of them use Peachtree, or a whole bunch of them use whatever, my policies are designed around those softwares, because there's a server side to it and there's a workstation side. So that's how we have it all broken down. I don't know, we probably have 10 to 20 policies, and then I have policies that just apply to every server OS and every workstation OS, because some of it is very generic. I need all of them to have this. I need all of them to, do this. And the only reason that we break it down granularly as it relates to those softwares is because of specific updates that may happen in that practice management. So we may have 50 clients using this one software, and they all have a problem, or they all need an update, or they all need a patch, or they all need to avoid a patch. That's the only reason we break it down like that. And I know that, like I said, it's a little unorthodox because we're in a single vertical, and that just makes me a little unique. I've got 2,700 assets, but I'll fully admit that I may not deal with some of the problems that you guys do if you're in multi-markets. So.
Sure. And I think that also, what I will do, just for those of you that maybe, I think we have people here that you might not have ever seen Syncro before. So kind of what we're speaking to is that you can have as many policies as you want in Syncro. And so what Ross is saying is that he's got probably like 2 major policies, maybe a third, but where this, so where this might be a little bit different for MSPs that are servicing all sorts of different business types, and the alerts might be different, and all of the configurations might be different. You can clone policies, but it's not like if you clone it and then change the one you cloned it from and make a setting change, it's not going to change it across what you cloned. But what we've done to kind of help manage that is that we have policy modules. So while there are very intricate settings and things like that within each policy, a lot of the configuration is done on different modules. So it's easy to make just a quick change on a module and then, apply that to a policy. So, it is absolutely an active feature request. We hear it all the time, to have that parent-child type of relationship with policies. And so I think right now we're handling it with whenever we add a new core functionality to a policy, we add it as a module. You'll find that we've done that from the beginning, just because of that exact scenario. So hopefully that kind of helps clear that up there. Few other things. Yeah, okay. Is there a feature request page for people to vote on if a feature is helpful for them? Great question, Frank. We don't have necessarily like an active forum. I would say our Facebook group is one of the most active Facebook groups. That's where we hear a lot of our feature requests. But I kind of talked through this several times. We are very feedback driven. If we start hearing about things and it becomes a trend, we're going to build it. So one thing to say about that, if you want to request something, in my opinion, the best way to do it, if you just type an email to help@SynchroMSP with the title feature request, and not like this brief, I want this thing. What really adds value is if you say, I want this thing, and I want it because it's either going to make my technicians this much more efficient, or it's going to bring in this much more, more revenue for me. Those are the words that we want to hear. Those are the words that, if it's going to help you, it'll probably help a ton of MSPs. So that is the most valuable way that you can make a feature request, by really telling us the why to the request. and again, as we keep track of that, the technical support team keeps track of that, the sales team keeps track of that, customer success. So we have all of these different things that we are keeping track of that. So yes, speak up for sure. Okay, Ross, what are you guys using for the financial side, and how is that working out?
We're using Syncro. I mean, we do. So that was a big transition for us. It took a couple months because we had to change a whole lot of banking. But we use Syncro basically top to bottom, and we sync back to QuickBooks just for records and exporting and things like that. But I run inside sales through Syncro. I run monthly billing through Syncro. I run customer dashboard payment. I run everything through Syncro, and that's kind of like one of the big things that I was talking about is if I didn't have that capability, the Windows 10 inside sales this year, it would have been a mess. And I'll just readily admit that, because Autotask, and I don't have any reason to not put them down, but I'll gently say Autotask, in my opinion, in our experience, was crap when it came to inventory and sales and finances, which is one of the reasons we struggled, because we were having to use other products. That's why we went and bought Connect Booster. That's why we were still doing all of our automatic deposits directly through the bank, which makes it really hard to manage and kind of do your quarterly reconciliations or your monthly, like who paid, who didn't pay, is that information being imported properly, and when you've got 2,700 assets and several hundred clients, you go through one billing cycle and you miss 4 or 5% because a credit card got declined or whatever. It becomes a mess because you're having to check 3 or 4 different portals just to look at all that. Now I just run a report every month on the 2nd, and I look at everything. I look at all the open invoices, I look at all the open ticket charges and everything we've sold, and I can see it. And I hate to oversell that, but that has been, the financial side of this has been massive for us, because whereas before the time it took was almost prohibitive, because just like most of you, I'm way too busy for any human being. Being able to look at that financial information and make quick fire decisions like, hey, it looks like we're spending way too much here, or hey, I don't think that invoice looks right, that's way too high, or that's way too low, or hey, these 7 people didn't pay this month, call them Monday morning, get a new payment method or rerun that or whatever. That's been huge. I mean, our collections month over month this year have been so much more efficient. And that's helped to drive business. That's helped to drive higher. I've doubled the size of our company this year. And I'm not going to give you guys all the credit, but I think there's a fair amount of credit to be lended to my ability to run the business. I mean, I don't say that with a small amount of conviction. I really do. If I couldn't come in here every day and better manage what we're doing, we wouldn't have doubled in size. But I'm starting 2020 with a team of 15, which is awesome. And I can do that because I can see granularly whenever I want how the business is doing. And that ties back into what I've been able to plug in with you guys. So.
Awesome. Yeah. And I guess just a little bit further detail just on the actual specifics too. They are using the payment. We have several payment processors that we integrate with, but they're specifically using WorldPay, and they have hooked up the ACH payments and that sort of thing. So on the technical side, that's kind of, they're using our reoccurring invoicing, they're sending it out of Syncro, and then they're receiving payment using WorldPay. Mm-hmm. So just kind of to follow up on that. One question, Ross, do you have to do any sort of monitoring of VMs or printers? Randy was just curious, without an SNMP, are you monitoring those things at all right now?
We do VMs, but what I do, and it's like I said, it's a little unorthodox just because of how specific our space is. And I'll tell you, full transparency, I don't have a lot of VMs because dental hates VMs. If a dental software company finds out you're using VMs, they will almost not support you service-wise. So even when we run them, it's like, don't tell them when you call, just log them directly in and hope that the guy that's there doesn't know that he's on a VM. But I usually just use an RMM agent on each. I load out all the VMs with an RMM, and then I load out the host with an RMM, and then I specific scripting to check all of that health-wise. And then our backup, we use Cloudberry with an integration with you guys too. Our backup gives me some reporting on health of VMs as well, because we're doing some image-based stuff. So yeah, I hate that sometimes I don't have a whole lot to offer in some of those specific areas, but that's how we're handling it. And I hate to, and I don't want to, Crystal, did you see the question about security?
Yeah, I actually was going to, that was the next one I was going to. Cause,
okay, I didn't want to miss that.
Yeah, I'm happy to, if you want to kind of head there, because one of the, so let me read it out loud. Sorry, I don't think everyone can see them. With all the incidents of RMM remote control software being compromised, are there any plans in place to increase security in using Syncro, such as only allowing access to the dashboard from certain IP addresses and or requiring additional 2FA when creating scripts connecting to Syncro Live, etc.? So really good question, Darren. So one thing I do want to show is the first part of that. We do have that. And I believe, Ross, you're using that, right? Yes. So if you go to employee settings, you can assign a list of IPs for technicians that from here. This is where you would define the IP addresses, and you're using that, right, Ross?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so that part we are handling really well. We did just, I mean, it's been several months now. We now require multi-factor authentication, meaning once you have more than one endpoint installed, it's now required. All logins have to have that multi-factor authentication. Mm-hmm. When it comes to like an additional 2FA prompt to like run a script or launch into Syncro Live, that's interesting. I think that's at this point, I'm thinking that's a feature request to have that being an additional prompt. Of course, I'm sure you've seen in security groups, you can have all of your like every single login to Syncro could have their own security group if you wanted to. And you could say, okay, this person, you know, as you can see, we got very granular with this list. We do take security incredibly seriously. And so you can see there's certain things like that you can lock specific people out of. So scripting and Syncro Live is absolutely like, you could make sure, like maybe someone could execute a script, but in no means could they edit a script, for example, or again, have access to Syncro Live at all. But yeah, whatever, if you have stuff to add to that, Ross said.
And I think, Crystal, I think you can alert, if you go to the alerts page, I think you can alert for changes. And I don't want to, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I think that in the notification center, you can be alerted for some of those individual events as well. So if you go down to,
so I know like a script failed. I know you can get notified if a script failed, but I don't know if you can get it.
I get a lot of those, and maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Because I don't think you're going to get notified if like a script has been executed or anything like that. So I think at this point, I think like a prompt for a 2FA or something like that to when like before executing a script. I like the idea. I'm happy to kind of forward that onto the team. Okay, one question that Randy was curious about. In that importer tool, and you'll know far better than I do, did that bring over like asset info or any passwords that you had, or was that didn't bring that over, did it? It still doesn't do that, I don't think.
No, I mean, the asset info gets built out just like if you were to, install IT Glue for the first time or something like that. So the RMM is going to build its own information. And password wise, I assume you're talking about stored password information, like from an IT Glue or something like that. And I think that the difficulty there was because we talked about this. I think that and I'm not a developer, and I will say that right up front, so I don't always understand all the nuance behind this, but I think that what was explained to me was the difficulty in moving some of that hashed data over is that you're going to be dealing with way too much kind of open text instances in that conversion for that to be safe for anybody. And if I'm speaking ignorantly, I apologize to the group as a whole, but if IT Glue has it all saved, they have it saved in a hash, or they have it saved encrypted. To get it out and then over and then in, they would either have to share with you the hashing or the math-based security behind that, or it would have to be plain text for a bit and then re-encrypted in Syncro. And I think that because we talked about it during the import, because I had some larger clients where we had some information like that. And I don't think there was a way to do it, and that a developer could speak a lot more intelligently to that. But I think that was something that we kind of broached, and there was some logic to why you just can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and that's like, so I don't think, Randy, it like anything has changed since then, like when we told you like we can't bring that stuff over. So I don't think anything has changed since then. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we have importer tools. We have several importer tools. So we've got, a nice ConnectWise importer tool. We've got a Terra. We have a universal installer script to bring over those assets. But yes, most of the built-in importers are going to speak specific to the PSA portion, customers, contacts, tickets, and history, that kind of thing. And then really when it comes to the assets, it's kind of a fresh start. Like it's a way to deploy and get those endpoints out there, but it's not going to import that specific asset detail. All right, let's see here. Catherine would like to know, can you mix and match AV usage within the portal? So Bitdefender on some, Webroot on the other, and can you migrate those accounts? So just really quickly, absolutely. Any policy that you have, you can go ahead and you could have a policy that has, as you'll see, Bitdefender enabled and the other two disabled. And then you could have a totally different policy just specifically for your Webroot customers. To answer the migration question, Webroot, yes, you can migrate your previous Webroot account. Bitdefender has to be provisioned through Syncro and start fresh. So hopefully that answers that question. Okay. Let's ask this one from Zach. Does Syncro satisfy all your needs to understand health of third-party services such as antivirus backups and software install and updates?
Yes. We're always adding to that functionality, but I think in the world of Windows 10 especially, there's almost nothing you can't do with PowerShell. Syncro is really, really, really flexible with PowerShell functionality. So anything, and I'll just speak to my vertical, anything in dental, a lot of dental software is run on SQL or some iteration of, some totally proprietary database. All of that can typically be monitored through PowerShell or through a service monitor or something to that effect. So that's how I'm handling it, and I haven't had any issues. And we're always building something new. We've got multi-site where we're doing SQL replication over a couple different states. We had to build a special replication health monitor for that, and it reports directly to Syncro through our RMM alerts or whatever. And we've got an automated, it sends my team leads an email and things like that. I spoke a lot to the technical third-party services, AV backups. Yeah, like I said, I mean, any of that can be checked. So what I always do when we're running any of those services, and once again, to be fully transparent, most of that is mine. I don't really allow anybody to have their own AV or backups or whatever. So 90% of them are from us. But if we have a client where we're in a situation where they've already got somebody or they're only using us for on-site support or something like that, I always make sure that there's Windows error reporting being utilized by that application, and then we monitor for that, which is, pretty quick. So if error 1024 or whatever pops up in the error logs, we have an RMM alert that comes through and automated remediation that kicks off. So, and that's for AV. That's for AV and backup. And then my third-party apps, like I said, most of those we're utilizing either service monitoring, SQL monitoring, or a combination of Windows error reporting. And even some of them with PowerShell, they have their own, they have their own directory C drive, D drive, E drive, whatever, and there's log entries that happen. So we're watching certain logs for certain, for certain error messages or whatever, payment didn't post or service didn't start, as expected or something like that. So that's how we're handling it. And as far as satisfaction goes, I can tell you unequivocally that I wouldn't be here a year later if I wasn't satisfied. If I wouldn't have canceled Autotask and 11 days later been on Syncro, and then be unhappy with this for a year. No, I mean, if March had rolled around and I hated it, I would have just gone and done something else in 11 days. So that's my answer for that.
Awesome.
Awesome. We have another question in here from Catherine. Is there 24/7 help desk support? What is the expected response time on a ticket from your help desk? So within Syncro, we do not have an SLA. When you submit a ticket, our techs do prioritize those. Usual response time is within 24 hours. And again, we just prioritize them as they come in. The other thing to know about our tech support team is they are all internal. We don't really have like a level 1, 2, 3 type of technical support team. So anyone who is part of our team has been for a while, and so they're very well trained. We are US based, and so I think from the sales team, from the tech support team, from the development team standpoint, we're all here to see you guys succeed with Syncro, and especially with the tech support team, again, being knowledgeable, being well trained, being part of the team. We have very, very, very low, I would say almost no turnover with our tech support team. So anytime you guys do reach out, you'll get a really good quality response. We do care if you guys are encountering any bugs or issues, or if you need help setting something up. We're here for you, and we do want to support you. So whether that's help from your account rep while you're on a trial, or if you do send in a ticket, we do try to get to those as quickly as possible.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It's crazy because we're already an hour in. I just kind of want to throw out, if there's any final words that Ross, you want to leave us with, I'm putting you on the spot. But this was this was really helpful today. Really great questions. We appreciate you all for coming. And then if there's any questions, so usually open office hours, I'll just kind of say this really quick. We're going to try to do a special guest maybe once a month, every 6 weeks, that kind of thing. But we do these every Friday. You can come in, hang out with us for an hour, ask us whatever question you have. So we're here to help, and we're going to continue to do these. And if there was anything that you were thinking about, or if you haven't had a full product tour and you'd like to, if you already have an account rep, reach out to them. If not, we have a full 30-day free trial. Super low pressure sales team. It's going to be one of us that you talk to. So feel free to do that and reach out if you'd like to see more as well. But again, thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, Ross, thank you so much.
No, absolutely. If you want me to offer a closing statement, I think that it's really simple. There's a million products in this space, right? The channel is so lucrative, and everyone is trying to sell you something. We're a small business. Everyone that joined in today is a small business. You guys are a small business. I don't have time to spend, banging the gong, so to speak, for somebody that I don't fully believe in. And I wouldn't be here today. I've got 1,000 things to do today. I've got 1,000 phone calls to return, and I'm trying not to watch my email tick up as I'm sitting here. So I think that the easiest way for me to answer that or to speak to that is I wouldn't have spent an hour here today if I didn't fully believe in this product and this team, and hadn't fully enjoyed this first year, and have nothing but, high hopes and expectations for the future as we move forward. I've doubled in size. And like I said, I'm going to give you guys a piece of that credit, and we're very, very happy with the product. I never did open office hours for Autotask. So here we are. And I think that speaks for itself.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate, and happy holidays to everyone. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. This was recorded, so we'll post it and we'll send it out. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Bye. Thank you.